Good morning. And today's going to be 5-4 diamonds. We are in the big blind. In this hand, we have hijack, open raises, button calls, and I call. So villain force playing 30-23. We have quite a few hands on him. I do think pre-flop raise first 10 stat says 33%. It's going to be cutoff is 29%. I think we're going to be in that 30 to 35% range. This is 35% range. You know, we can kind of get it cleaned up a little bit, make it a little bit more realistic, and I think that's probably pretty good at 33%. We could get rid of those to get to 30%, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave them in. This next player, we only have 77 hands on him. It's a big question of what is he doing that with, and I should say with our notes, we do have some notes on the pre-flop raiser, at least 3-bet range, so I do think he's going to be somewhat aggressive, be somewhat wide. This next player's, he's coming along with probably like pocket pairs, some suited broadways. 3-bet, we have 1 out of 24, so 4%. I'm just going to say queens plus and ace queen for him. So we're looking at a range that looks something maybe like this: queens plus ace queen. We'll add the ace queen off. We're going to give him suited aces, suited broadways, suited connectors, suited one gappers, pocket pairs. That gets us up to 20%, and that's probably going to be okay. Our range versus mid position, we've got a 3-better call. I think this could be a good spot to squeeze. We're at like the real bottom of our range here. If both players fold, I'm okay with that. I don't really have a strong hand to begin with, so I think we could definitely go ahead and make that play. But I chose just to call, so we're going to go with this range here. So we see a flop of ace 3 4 8 or ace 3 8 with 2 diamonds. So we flop a gut shot and we flop a flush. I think this is a pretty decent hand. I think we are probably just going to check. And my thought was checking to probably check raise in this spot. I think we could check raise trips. I think we check raise any of the 2-pair, ace 8, ace 3. I think we've got diamonds that we could check. I think check raise. I think we have some of the straights that we could check raise. So if we think about, you know, what's going to be the breakdown, we're looking at sets in 2-pair. That's like 7%. And then I think this is much like the one we just did. We worked out, you know, flush draw is all 7%, but I think we could open it up. Yes, we do it. That's 50-50, and if we add the rest of the gut shots too, that's 7%. I mean that's pretty decent range. I would say I think the squeeze would have been okay because his fold 3-bets, that's 29%. He's facing another player behind him. If we had 3-bet there, I do think we're leading out here again. But since we just called, I think this is actually a pretty decent check raise spot here. So villain bet, his c-bet says really high. I do think he's probably going to be c-betting basically everything here. We're going to give him all of the draws. We're going to give him all of the pocket pairs. And then I think we need the overcards here. We're just going to give him all of these. That's at 90%. 90%. Can we do 2-card backdoor flush draw? Yeah, no. It's going to be all of these hands. I think we already have the gut shot, so we're just going to say we're giving him all of those Broadway hands. That's 90%. So I do think he's going to be c-betting most of the time here. I mean, the ace is good for his range. Next guy calls. So the thing is with that c-bet, the 6.5, that's a fairly large bet, but I think it's consistent with the frequency. his c-bet frequencies, that he's probably betting this larger size with everything and hoping just to get folds. Next guy calls. I think the next guy is gonna be a little bit more selective, so we're gonna give him these pocket pair less than the top card. I think we're gonna give him the flush draws. I think we're gonna give him the middle card, middle pair as well, maybe the pocket pairs, and then flush draws, and that's about it. So he got 50%, and then it's on me. And then I do think this would be a pretty good check raise. We are deep. I think we check raise up to 24, 25. If we get called, we're basically setting ourselves up for a pot size shove on the turn, which I think we can make. It would be hard, even if they call with something like ace jack, ace 10. I think it's going to be hard when we shove to call with that, because they're going to have to think, man, am I behind to ace queen or maybe even ace king? I didn't check raise, it just called. I do think this might be a mistake. I do think this might be a mistake. So I think top pair is going to be a call. Don't even think these lower pairs should be calls, or the middle pairs. I think top pair, maybe the 9s and 10s could be a call. I think 2s maybe could be a call because we block straights. And if we wanted to 2-card back to our flush draws, but I mean, reality is that one guy already called. So I'm just going to leave all of that and say, at this point, I wasn't check raising, and I'm not even 100% sure that check raising would be appropriate. Maybe if this player folded, then we could go for a check raise. But maybe since we already have a call, then we shouldn't be check raising. I don't know. I just think that this is a pretty big hand with a gut shot flush draw to be check raising. Yeah, we don't have the nut flush, so maybe that is the leading us more towards just calling. And I guess that's a possibility. So I'm just going to leave everything here, saying that I was playing passively and just called. This would be why check raise was so good, because if you catch that 2, I don't know how many people would even be able to put us on a straight hit at this point. I think diamonds, like the king X of diamonds, is going to probably call. But since we already check called, I think we check again. So this villain checks at this point. I don't think he's checking sets 2 pair or even top pair. I think he's freezing up on the rest of these. I actually don't think he's gonna check the flush draw either. So we have the note, played turn draw aggressively. I think this is, if he had the turn, or if he had the flush draw, he's going to continue betting that. So I think that's his check range, which is going to be pretty weak. Next guy, bet. So he could have just checked behind, but he bet about half pot. At this point, I'm thinking it's going to be top pair plus is what he has. I think I also have a note that he played turn draw aggressively, so we'll give him the flush on that. The top pair plus with the flush draw, and then it comes back to me, and I didn't check raise the first time, and now it's a decision. So if I just call, what's the chance of getting him to call? If he doesn't really have anything, I don't think there's any chance that he's going to call. So I just feel like we shouldn't take into account this player. I don't think a decision is, well, if we call, we can, if we just call, we can get one overcaller, versus if we check raise, then we're never getting him. I think we should be check raising the straight at this point. I raised it up to 43.5, which is possibly a little too large. We're basically setting ourselves up for less than a half pot bet on the river. We could raise up to 30, 20. I mean, that is about right, 3 times that bet size. But it's the sizing, stack size is off. Because if he calls, then we're going to be at 86 plus 29. So we're going to be over at like 110, and we're going to have less than a half pot bet. which I mean could work. I mean, we're gonna probably get called, which is what we kind of want, as long as the diamond or heart doesn't come. But we don't really have any of the bluff ranges at that point. You know, we lose some of our bluffs. But I do think I do like the check raise. Where are we going to check raise it? I think we're doing it with the straights. I think we could possibly do it with the sets. I think two pairs probably just a check call. If we do it with all of our flushes, we've got way too many flushes. So then we would have to add like our two pair to it. Those are still pretty good. Those are still like that's a gut shot. So I think we're gonna leave that in there, but maybe like 7-6 we don't. Maybe we don't do those. Yeah, it's maybe a little bit better. It just seems like it's a lot of check raises. 40%, that's a lot of check raises. So yeah, I don't think we can do that with all of them. And we're doing it two pair plus. But again, it's being aggressive, and maybe that is the play. In any case, I made the check raise. This guy folds, so yeah, I think he had a pretty weak hand. This guy calls. Once he calls, I think it's top pair. I think flush draw. I think I'm leaving that same thing. Top pair plus flush draw. That's what he's calling. And the ace comes out, and I do think we just go ahead and shove. I think we have to here. We're ahead of most of his range. We're ahead of most of his range. Yeah, we're going to be beat to a full house, but I think we continue, and maybe he's going to probably call with any of his aces. So we bet he calls. I'm going to guess he has an ace, ace 7 of hearts. So he actually had a big draw too. It's definitely in his range. And we took the pot. So let's take some notes and then talk about this hand. So he called, hijacks 3 big blind. I don't know if it was 3 big blinds or not. Yes, it was. RFI on button with ace 7 hearts. And he is in position 3-way. He called 66%. He bet 50%. Bet 50% and call a 50% raise. I guess we'll just do 3x raise and then call. Just all right. So overall, I like how I did the check raise, but I think we could have done the check raise on the flop. That could actually be pretty bad for us looking at what hand he has, because I don't think he's going to fold on the flop, and then he's definitely not going to fold to a turn bet. Not when he has a massive draw, you know, with the top pair and flush draw. I just don't think he's going to fold that. So I think it kind of worked out as it should. However, I do think our hand's pretty strong for check raise. And I'm going to go back to this idea that we already had one caller, so maybe that argues against it. If it was just one player who bet, and we're just check raising one player, maybe that would have been a better situation for us to check raise. So that's going to be the hand. I think it fairly straightforward. Definitely helps when you hit. So hopefully you like this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another.